things are going just great in England. But the farmers are actually putting Labour on the back foot, and it's actually starting to pay dividends already. It was only on Tuesday that they had the big protest, and already the Labour Party is starting to sort of crumble. And so I thought we'd go through it just to give them some moral support. But before we do, go and subscribe to our Lotus Eaters Daily channel. We started this yesterday, already got 11,000 subscribers. It's doing well. Go and watch. We've got a bunch of videos on there already, and another one's going to be going up just after the podcast. So go and watch that. So in the budget, you can go through this and find them saying, well, there's going to be a change to the agricultural property relief, which means that farms who it will apply for 100%, so you won't get any inheritance tax on farms that are worth up to £1 million. And then after that, it'll be 20%, and then after a certain number, it goes up. And so there were lots of farmers who are like, right, okay, but that means me, and that means you're going to screw me, because farms, for anyone who doesn't know, though we've said it enough times, are technically valued at a lot of money, but don't actually produce a lot of income. And so these people, when slapped with like £400,000 inheritance tax bill, are like, well, I make 30 grand a year off my farm. What am I supposed to do about this? And of course they say, well, just sell it. And just to be clear, it definitely will affect like the average farmer, right? So the average farm in Britain is 88 hectares, and at approximately £28,000 a hectare puts the average farm, and you can just go to any sort of farm selling thing, somewhere between £2.5 to £3 million. So, and this of course depends on the quality of the land, blah blah blah, but it's somewhere in the region of £2.5 to £3 million for literally the average farm.
It's also worth mentioning as well that agriculture is something that has an economy of scale, and so the bigger the farm, the more productive it is. And so by shrinking the size of the farms, I mean, this happened in the Russian Revolution, you just reduce the amount of food that is produced and you cause famines. Yeah, so saying, oh, it's just a farm of 1 million or more, okay, but that's about a third of the farms are less than 1 million, something like that, somewhere between a third and sort of 45% are less than 1 million. And so this is bad news for farmers. And so lots of people who know what they're talking about, such as Professor Paul Cheshire here, is like, well, hang on a second. This is just essentially penalising the farmers, and it's going to ruin them. And of course, it's increasing the price of the land anyway, because now you're essentially going to flood the market with land that otherwise wasn't going to be sold, and things like this. So it's like, okay, this is just what is the Labour Party doing? And this is the point of the protest. I went to the protest. It was nice. Lots of farmers standing around in their wellies, being very polite and saying, look, we actually don't think we should be ruined on our family farms that we've owned for generations. Why are you doing this to us? Is it because we vote Conservative and you're, of course, the Labour Party? Which is probably why they're doing it. And the Labour Party were like, no. Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer, has been like, no, don't care. Don't care. It's not changing my mind. Also, they've got to sacrifice their home that's potentially passed down many generations on the altar of the NHS as well, which should be...
yes.
I'm pretty sure it says health service.
What it says is black hole into which we pour our money.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is at this point, especially as you literally can't get health service on it. You can get on a waiting list if you want that. I mean,
Only 2 years for an abortion or something, I imagine.
It literally can be years for cancer treatment.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, good luck, bro.
Well, there's already enough cancer in the UK, but it's in the government anyway.
Well, yeah, but Josh makes a great point here. As you can see, this is to fund the NHS. The NHS, that's right, the NHS, the fundable NHS that is responsible for the £22 billion black hole in the finances that Labour announced as soon as they came in. And then they announced a £22 billion fund to capture carbon. Right. I think they might be lying to us. I think if they're like, no, we have to pay £22 billion, they wouldn't then commit £22 billion for nonsense projects like this.
Do they know what is produced on farms? Do they know that the plants...
do plants capture carbon, do they?
Yes, carbon-based life forms, as agriculture. I know, I've made this breakthrough.
We need to tell the Labour government this. Yeah. Well, the point is, they want to turn these into wind farms, which are made of metal, which I understand don't capture carbon.
No.
Right, okay, interesting.
They kill birds, though. The opposite, really.
Yes, that's not good. I like birds.
You know, I was on the way to the protests, and conveniently, even though we had 1/2 inch of snow up north in the Midlands, all the trains to London were cancelled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were cancelled, but not going up north where there's
Yeah.
more snow. Half an inch took the British transport system down to its knees. And then the next day, it was totally fine for some reason.
To be fair,
How convenient.
that might actually be real because our transport system's terrible. Yeah, so of course, remember that they've stripped the pensioners. 100,000 pensioners are going to be pushed into poverty. So we can definitely punish the farmers. We can definitely punish the pensioners. And we are definitely spending that 22 billion that we raise out of them on capturing carbon. Right. So like I said, I went to the protest and they were making some good points. Yeah, I don't think we should kill the people who produce our food. That's good. Again, has anyone suggested this to the Labour Party?
Food comes from Tesco's, not from farms.
That's a great... Well, Waitrose, actually.
That's right.
These
That's the
people,
best food.
the Labour Party don't eat at Tesco's. God, give them some credit. And then you had some very interesting people... Because one thing I like about these sort of protests is it brings people out, right? And you get people falling on different sides of the argument. That's a surprise. Like Andrew Lloyd Webber came out... Like Andrew Lloyd Webber, the theatre playwright, came out and was just like, okay, well, many people are hovering around at the moment, rubbing their hands in glee about the tax. I can assure you they're not British.
With their hands.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
What does he mean by this?
Yeah, exactly. A very sort of based statement from Andrew Lloyd Webber, basically saying, look, a bunch of foreigners are going to start buying up our land. It's like, probably true.
Yeah. I mean, you could build Turkish kebab shops. You can build phone repair shops there.
There's no limit to the number of Turkish barbers
Vape
that we could
shops, 5-star hotels.
carpet the land in.
I want a giant mosque in a nice beauty spot. I feel like that's what the countryside is missing.
I want a 5-star hotel, but not for British people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they might all be actually bought up by the government for foreigners at this point. So, anyway, so you got some interesting things. Jeremy Clarkson spoke at it, of course. I spoke to Jeremy Clarkson very briefly. I was like, "Are you going to go into politics?" He was like, "No." It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. We need someone to come and do something about this, Jeremy. Come on, bro. But look, Clarkson did speak there, and he just came out and just straight up said, "Look, you have to back down over this, or it's going to ruin thousands of people's lives."
They don't care.
No, they don't.
I mean, it's also worth mentioning, and I mentioned this when I talked about some of it yesterday, that Clarkson now has one of the most popular shows in the world.
He always has. Basically.
See what I did there? In the world. And the fact that he's got international recognition, he was on Top Gear, watched all around the world, that they've made the enemy of the worst person they possibly could in Jeremy Clarkson, and he's pretty openly hostile to the Labour government now.
That's great. He hates the media, he hates the government. He's just like a regular person.
I know, yeah. It's great. I also liked how he approached this here, where he's saying, obviously it's not me that's going to be affected because I'm very wealthy. I'm here for other people, which is the best way you could present it because it seemed very genuine. And I believe he's genuine, but quite often people make the mistake of trying to make out like I'm a representative of these, this person. But I think you make yourself a better representative if you're just saying, listen, I'm here out of my own volition after I've had a heart attack.
And this is he had an argument with Victoria Derbyshire of the BBC, and she was basically exactly saying that. It's like, aren't you rich? How does this affect you? Aren't you trying to do this to avoid inheritance tax? And he's basically, look, it's just not about me. It's about these people.
He said something even more respectable. He's just like, actually, I just wanted to shoot.
Yeah.
Which the BBC hate even more than farmers. But it came with a nice backup of being able to avoid inheritance tax.
See, this is what's wrong with this country. The attitude is, if you're making a little bit of extra money than the average, you're a terrible person.
Oh, yeah.
God forbid you make some extra money. I make my money off selling Taliban merch. And, I'm doing better than the average person. It's absurd. And everyone's preying on everyone's downfall. In America, it's like, geez, I only made like 200K this year in a tech job working remotely. I need to make 500K next year. Here, it's like, if you make 40K, apparently you're evil.
It's just total crabs in the bucket syndrome.
Yeah, it's just fat, retarded, poor people that are upset at people that have some sort of ambition.
I don't agree. I don't agree that's the case because I've never met like a poor person who's resentful of people working hard and making loads of money.
You think it's middle class?
Yeah, it's all middle class socialists who work in like they get about 50K a year and they're kind of depressed in their boring email job and they're like, oh, I hate that person because he makes loads of money. It's like, well, you could stop being like a middle class loser and get you could start being an entrepreneur And no, I mean it. I really mean it.
It's true.
I'm a middle-class loser.
No, you're not, because you're not just sat there in an email job.
That's
right?
true, yeah.
You know, these people
I
are doing
ignore my
jobs.
emails, actually.
These people are resentful because they think they're better than the email job they've got, but they're unwilling to take any risks at all. It's like, no, if you're so clever, go and do it. But they don't, and they sit there seething about people like Jeremy Clarkson, who actually took some risks, made some money, and were successful. You know, I've never met a poor person who's just like, I just hate the rich. They don't think about them. You know, they think about doing whatever they need to do. It's the middle class.
I think in many ways, people respect the rich that are more working class, because it's not only an aspiration, but they quite often can recognise that they deserve it. There isn't the proximity to it that they feel resentful, because they're just like, well, obviously I'm not going to do that. They don't feel like they've missed the boat. I think people become resentful when they feel like they could have achieved that level of success.
Yeah, and also there's this kind of undeserved expectation that because they got an English literature degree, that I went to university, I got myself an English literature degree, I deserve to be a multimillionaire. It's like, no, you're an idiot, and you got like sorry, Connor, I'm not trying to call out English literature degrees.
Shots fired.
I do see the value in them, but like, you know, write a book. Anyway, moving on. So Starmer had previously promised the farmers, don't worry guys, I'm not going to ruin you all. And so when he comes out and goes like, I'm going to ruin you all.
Politician lie?
Yeah, but quite dramatically.
No way.
Who could
Quite
see this?
dramatically. So obviously the farmer's like, okay, we feel pretty betrayed. I mean, you're destroying our lives' work, so we're quite upset. And so it's at this point that I think we can actually see the lines that are laid out, right? So you've got the Labour elite, the government, and the core elite around the top of the party that are like, nope, we are going to liquidate the kulaks. We don't care. We've got foreigners we need to house in Britain. We've got foreigners we need to pay for the NHS for, and therefore you guys are just going to give us all your money. We're going to asset mine, strip mine your bloody assets, right? And elsewhere, what you have are fractures appearing at the bottom of the sort of periphery of the Labour Party. For example, in this, they tell us that the president of the Countryside Alliance and Labour peer, Baroness Malu, I can't pronounce that, she spoke at the protest. If anyone knows how to pronounce that surname.
I can't even see it.
So it's highlighted in blue there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that. I don't know how that's...
Malu.
Yeah, whatever, right?
Oh, French.
But, but she spoke at the protest, declaring her unwavering and steadfast support for farmers, as she wrote a piece in the Daily Express over this. And so Starmer was put on the back foot because this was a big public spectacle, and it was very much mainstream. So at the protest, you had like people like Kemi Badenoch, Nigel Farage, and even Ed Davies. I think he parachuted in on a zip line or something.
Water slide.
Yeah, well, he slid his way.
Rubber ring.
Yeah, but even he was there. So you can see it's got a lot of mainstream support. It's got actual, mainstream politicians there. And so Starmer had to respond. And he was just like, my first job was on a farm. What? No, was it? I thought your dad was a tool maker. What are you talking about?
He's the tool.
Well, yeah, he's made a superb tool in Keir Starmer. But like, I grew up in the countryside. All of my family lives in the countryside. That's why I'm able to say with confidence that the vast majority of farms will be unaffected by the inheritance tax.
But that's a non sequitur as well.
It is.
You can live in the countryside and you don't have an intimate knowledge of the finances of a farm.
Yeah,
it's just like I live in a house in the middle of nowhere. All of a sudden, I can read the books of a farmer.
I used to work in a barbershop. Kind of ironic, same metaphor almost.
Yeah, I've shaved my head, therefore I know how barbershops manage their incomes by drugs. But the point is, complete non sequitur, and probably not even true. Like there are various other interviews that he's done with people over the course of the years, where he was like, well, look, I went to this particular school, and then I looked after disabled kids between 6 and 16 years old. And then the next 6 months were spent in a factory operating machinery. And then I went on to get my scholarship and law. It's like, well, when did you work on the bloody farm? You're just lying. It's again, wow, politicians lie, but it's just such an obvious and easy lie to be like, why?
People believe it too. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
Putting the disabled children to work on the farms.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But Keir Starmer, being probably the least popular politician, I was going to say since Adolf Hitler, but
he was pretty popular actually.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say he actually had quite a good favourability rating.
He kind of is on my X feed, but
yeah. But anyway, Labour are on the back foot here, and so they've started putting out posts like this. And you'll notice this is just very strange, especially point 2 here. estates worth up to 3 million could be passed on by a couple completely free of inheritance tax.
Could
thank you.
still be.
Yeah, could. Although not according to the budget and according to what the farms actually cost. I looked into this, and basically you would need to engage in labyrinthine legal sort of bureaucracy to sort of like move parts around, like things at the
It becomes impossible.
Yeah, exactly. To make it possible. And it's like, so it's technically possible that you could pass that. It's not going to happen, right? The average
You'd need
farmer
to set up a trust, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you've got to do various things like split the land between the husband and the wife, put it in trusts and things like this, right? There's all. It's a lot of hassle. The average farmer isn't going to do this, right? They don't know what the legalese of this is, but you can see that they're completely on the back foot here. Oh, they could spread the payment over 10 years. I don't want you stealing my money, you thieves. It's like, God, what a, like, again, now don't worry wrong, we're going to steal your money, but we'll steal it slowly over a long period of time.
The reaction is just really deserved too. And the left was really surprised when everyone freaked out about this, thinking, no, what do you mean? But if they're millionaires, it's going to be like a little bit of pocket change. If I ever get like a parking ticket, I'm going into court claiming insanity and biting on a cyanide pill on my tooth. Like I'll go the killdozer route over like anything at all. This is criminal. Yeah. And they're underreacting almost.
Yeah, no, totally. And I can totally see why the farmers are furious and why they're genuinely like, okay, but my farm's not 3 million, it's 3,500,000. Oh wow. Okay, so what do you make a year? 27,000 or 28,000 or something. Oh great. So now you're screwed. 400k, please.
So this is just a hypothetical. I'm not advocating anyone actually do this, but if people were to go into Labour politicians' houses and just start taking stuff, I imagine that they would be pretty upset about that, wouldn't they? But that is effectively what is going on here.
Yeah, it's not just the farms; it's going to be literally their homes as well. Mm-hmm. They're losing. But like I said, you can see that this is a very defensive statement, right? Everything about the statement is like, well, hang on a second, it's not going to be quite as bad as the budget actually makes it seem. But of course, everyone knows that it is. And so now it's got to the point where Labour MPs are starting to grumble on the back benches. So you can see that the protest has had an effect, because a lot of people say, well, what do these protests even do? And actually, no, it's public pressure. Right, it's straws on the camel's back that continue piling up until eventually, of course, it breaks. This is Steve Witherden from Montgomeryshire in Glendower, who's called on the Treasury to release modelling of the impact, and Andy McNay for Rosendale and Darwin has admitted that it's unclear who'd be attacked. And so you can see the fractures already beginning. So I realise it's early days, but keep up the good work. Keep protesting, basically. Yeah. Don't let them think that you're going to just back down on this. Keep up the pressure, because they're already starting to crumble, because this is hardly the most secure administration in the history of Britain. Keep going.
We saw what happened in Canada, Amsterdam, all these other places that had protests with farmers. They had manure on the walls of...
Yeah, this is a lot more tame than that.
Oh, exactly, yes. I'm not saying to do that. No. But
definitely don't do any of those things.
Don't do anything illegal.
Obviously.
Obviously.
But the point is, this was just a simple, shot across the bows protest, where it's just like, look, we're just not in favour of this. And already a bunch of, a Lord and a bunch of MPs are like, guys,
geez, yeah. And what would happen if everyone was happy? Do we think, oh yeah, if we give the government a little bit more money, all the problems are going to be fixed, and never got asked for more? No.
It's just a few more billion for the NHS.
Exactly.
Stoke the fire.
Back in the 1900s, the height of the British Empire, or the late 1800s, everyone was paying 5% tax, and they were so unhappy. And they were like, please, government, let us pay more. We want to pay more taxes.
Stop banging the table.
The microphone.
I might bang it a little bit harder, guys. But then the government took more taxes. Everything just got better, guys.
Yeah.
We're paying more tax now than ever.
Yeah. I want to pay 100% to the government. It'll fix every problem.
Full communism will fix everything, won't it?
Real.
I bet that is actually James O'Brien's opinion. Because he's like the last defender of the Labour government. Hi folks, thanks for watching. We really appreciate the fact that we are kept sustained by the fact that you guys sign up to lotusseeds.com for £5 a month to help us actually allow to exist. Because of course we're demonetised here. So if you'd like to support us, go over to lotusseeds.com and watch the latest episode in the incredibly deep dive that we are doing on Stanley Kubrick. This is episode 3, and it's not the end, as I understand. Also, go over to X, formerly Twitter, and follow us at lotusseaters_com.